Hey everybody, NecroVMX here, and if you remember 2 weeks ago, I did a special video, the first of a special feature on the Nintendo consoles, and last week we took a look at the NES. Well, not last week, it was 2 weeks ago. Well, today we're going to follow that up. We're going to be taking a look at the very first handheld console from Nintendo, and that is the Game Boy. Now, the Game Boy is not Nintendo's first foray into the world of handheld gaming. They used to release games called the Game & Watches, and the Game & Watch is basically exactly what it sounds like. It was a game, and it was also a watch. Now, they weren't very good watches because, usually you held them in your hand and played them, and not wearing them on your wrist. There were some Game & Watches that did function as pretty good watches, but most of the ones that were better games didn't function as better watches. It was a really, really weird concept, something that was both a game and a watch. But it led to the concept of a handheld game that led to the eventual Game Boy. Now, the Game Boy, the original Game Boy, was developed by Gunpei Yokoi, and he was also the creator of the Virtual Boy. We'll be talking about that in a video, as well as several games. People most know him as the creator of Metroid and Kid Icarus. So, Metroid, Kid Icarus, and handheld consoles. Wow. What a legacy. Unfortunately, Gunpei Yokoi is no longer with us. He died, I forget when he died. It was shortly after Metroid 2 came out, which, by the way, was for Game Boy. He died in a car crash. He was pretty young. That was just tragic. Gaming really lost one of its greats. Anyway, as I showed you with my NES last week, my NES that I showed you, that was the NES that I had as a kid. That was my childhood NES. This is my childhood Game Boy. I actually have two Game Boys. Well, I think one was mine and one was my mom's, and then she stopped playing it, so they were both mine, and I don't know. I don't know what happened to the other one, but I do know what happened to this one. It's been through the fucking ringer. I got this when I was... let's see, I got the NES when I was 9, and I got this a year later. I got this when I was 10, I think. Or maybe 11. Well, I got it for my birthday. I think it was my 11th birthday, which I spent in the hospital. I ate some bad rice balls, and I got salmonella poisoning because there's eggs in there. And my whole family got it. Oh, actually, my mother didn't get it. My sister and my father got mild cases. My mother was okay. I got the most severe cases. I was hospitalized for 2 months. The doctor told me that it was the most severe case of salmonella poisoning that they'd ever seen. Now, these days you hear about people dying from it, but back then it was usually not that bad. Salmonella poisoning is a serious issue. Anyway, I was hospitalized and I spent my birthday, and not Christmas, thankfully, but I spent my birthday in the hospital. They're close together. And I got the Game Boy, so I actually got it a little early. So let me show you. This is, now, like I said, it's been through the ringer, it's beat up to hell, but there it is. There's the Game Boy. Now, you may think that it looks a little bit different from your Game Boy, if you have an original model Game Boy. See, I even still got a sticker, a Flintstone sticker from my childhood on there. I actually think we put the Flintstone sticker on there to differentiate it from the other Game Boy. This is the original model Game Boy, what people refer to as the gray brick. Gotta love it, the gray brick. Anyway, it looks a little different because the screen part came off. Well, this is the actual screen, but covering it was kind of a screen protector thing, a scratch coating, and that actually came off, and you can actually see residue from the glue on the sides there. You also notice that the screen is green. Now, many people refer to the Game Boy as monochrome or black and white. Actually, the original Game Boy, it was more green and white, or green and slightly less green, green and yellow and black, which was really, really dark green. It was all basically shades of green. Now, they re-released the Game Boy several times. There was a version called the Play It Loud version, which was basically the same exact design, except that it came in a couple of different colors other than gray. There was red and blue and black and all that. And then there was the Game Boy Pocket, and that was a smaller, slimmer design, and they changed the screen. The screen was slightly larger, and what they did was they made it black and white, true black and white, not this, weird green, yellowish puke color that, we were all used to playing back in the day. And they also, in Japan, they released the Game Boy Light, and with the Game Boy Light was basically a Game Boy Pocket with a backlight. We never got that here. And those were all the versions of the original Game Boy. Anyway, let's show around. Here in the front, we have the screen, of course. The screen protector's missing. That's the power indicator, so were I to switch it on, the light would come on. And I believe it was a green light that would turn red when the batteries were almost up. At least I think so. I don't remember. Now, the controls were very similar to the NES controller. However, there were some differences. As you can see, the D-pad is up here and the action buttons are up here, but they put the function buttons slightly lower. Also notice that they're at an angle, and so are the B and A buttons. This design would be followed with the Dogbone NES2 controller and the Super NES controller. So there you have select and start B and A. So people who were used to playing the NES were very used to this. And there's the speaker. You could actually get some pretty decent stereo sound if you use headphones, but it was all mono through that one speaker if you were not using it. At the top, you just have one thing really of worth is the power. You just flick it on and off like that. Now it had a little nub that would come out there that would prevent you from putting games in or taking them out while the power was on. While it was off, you'd be able to put in games and take them out. On this side here, we have the one knob is the contrast knob, which is very important for a monochrome system, is to have the contrast exactly where you wanted it. And right there, you have what is the DC adapter. Basically, if you you wanted to use an AC, it says DC, but basically the AC adapter would go there. So there you have it. On this side, you had two things. Now, one is labeled as Ext Connect. Now, that was the where you would connect one Game Boy to another using a link cable, and over there is the volume. On the bottom is the headphone jack, and that's all that's there. And then we have the back. Now, here is where the batteries would go. Although I don't have my original battery cover, this is actually a battery pack, kind of similar to the one that you would find with the DS. And it has an extra AC adapter thing there, which you could use to charge it up. And this is where the games go. Now let me grab a game so I can show you the cartridges. Here's one of the games. This is Dr. Mario. You notice the design is sort of similar to the NES games, except of course much smaller and much thinner. And you would stick it in here, label side out, and then you just push it in, turn it on, and you'd play it. So that's pretty cool. You could actually put some Game Boy Color games in there, and you would just play them in monochrome. However, there were some Game Boy Color games that used the extra clock speed of the Game Boy Color, and they had a protruding Game Boy Color logo that would prevent you from being able to put them in there. So anyway, there's the Game Boy. Just want to show it off, show you what the game looks like, show you what the actual system looks like. This is the start of a huge, huge legacy. And like I said, I have another Game Boy lying around somewhere. I think it's probably in the basement in a box somewhere. I don't know where it is. And of course, I have a Game Boy Advance, and I have a Game Boy Color that I borrowed from a friend to do this feature. So there you have it. So, hope you guys enjoyed. That was my look at the Nintendo Game Boy. An absolutely amazing series. It had some really amazing games on it, such as Final Fantasy Adventure and Legend of Zelda and Mario and they were just Wario and Kirby, and there were just a lot of amazing Game Boy games out there. I have this one subscriber who likes to make dippy comments, and he seems to hate the Game Boy, and he goes on about how 90% of Game Boy games suck. To be honest, you can say that about just any system, really, to be honest. The Game Boy is no better or worse than other systems. It's also highly successful, even though all of its competitors were supposedly better. There was the Game Gear made by Sega, which had color graphics and a lighted-up screen. There was the Lynx by Atari that also had color graphics. There was the Turbo Express from NEC. they all fell to the Game Boy. They all had very short lifespans, while the Game Boy, the original Game Boy, lasted well into the 90s. Now, why? Because it was cheaper, lighter, smaller, it had Nintendo games, and it had decent battery life. Sure, it didn't have a backlight or even a front light, and it didn't have any color, and the games were very primitive. Later on, they got to stretch out what the Game Boy could do, and they released some pretty amazing games. So, there you have it. So, join me next time. I guess we'll do it in 2 weeks, where we'll take a look at Nintendo's next big console, their home video console, which is 16-bit. See you then.